Hi, I'm Autumn,
And I'm Laura,
and together we're
the
the Boo
Boo
Sisters.
Sisters.
So, did you like how I said Boo Sisters? How we did Boo Sisters different that time, Laura? Probably no one else notices it, but I want people to know that we actually record that intro every time we sit down to do a podcast.
It's true. Well, it gets you in the right headspace to start. It's like, ooh, we're actually talking now for reals.
Yeah, exactly. First of all, before we jump into anything, I think we have to give a shout out to some new Patreon members. Our Patreon is out and we're having new members come in. So every episode or every couple of episodes, we'll mention a few names and give those shout outs. So, that being said, we wanted to give a big thank you to
Megan C. and Katie E.
Yay! Thank you, ladies. Thank you for being a part of our official brew crew. We really appreciate it.
Whoop, there it is.
So to start us off, Laura, as I was researching my location this week, I had a thought. It honestly has nothing to do with my location, but the
Oh,
I
yeah,
was
that
just
makes total sense.
I was just thinking about it in relation to some of the locations we've done before. And my question is, in your personal opinion, what do you think happens when a spirit is tied to a building and the building gets demolished or is no more?
I
Given,
have several opinions depending on what type of haunting it is, probably.
mm-hmm,
The first would be if it's some kind of residual haunting. I think that one of two things, either the residual could stay in the space, but since if there's not a new building there, people might not interact with it and might not notice it anymore.
mm-hmm.
Or if, say, the walls are different or whatever's happening is different, that the residual energies wouldn't be interacted with. People wouldn't cross the same paths as these entities would. Another thing is if something is built out of limestone, which we talk about a whole lot, that if the limestone itself is torn apart and torn down, and that's the recording device essentially, like the tape on the recorder, you know, and the tape is torn away, then there is maybe no recording there anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just thinking back to Penhurst when we visited, and we've seen a bunch of paranormal TV and read all the history about all the spirits there that seem tied to the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering if they're tied so much to the buildings and they're there, they either have to go somewhere else or they remain on the land or they get attached to some part of the building that then gets restructured into a different building.
I think that that could happen too. This actually could pertain to my haunting today in a way. And I won't go into the details of that other than to say parts of the building materials, the structure itself, could, in my haunting, carry energies that were used in a new building. And so I do think that that can happen. I also think if it's an intelligent style haunting, that those entities could haunt the area and or look for something else that would have been familiar during the time that those entities existed, whether it's a familiar school building or church or something else that existed during their time, or even just a park that hasn't changed much, maybe. So, yeah, I do think that that happens too. So, I just think it varies widely depending on what type of haunting and what is in the area.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree. I don't think the entity would just disappear altogether, but I kind of like you feel like it would be harder to come into contact or communicate with that spirit. So anyway, I just wanted to ask your opinion because it's like, I wonder what happens to these entities that we talk about.
Here I thought it was going to be another alien alien conversation because you saw another UFO
Oh my
a couple
gosh.
nights ago.
No, it was literally last night. I
Oh, last
saw
night. That's right.
a UFO. Okay, here, guys. I texted Laura at midnight because my husband and I went on a walk to see the meteor shower, which was at height last night and tonight. And instead of meteors, we went outside and I looked to my left and I saw this what seemed to be the moon partially like shining through clouds or something. And I said to my husband, look at the moon. Doesn't it look so strange? And James goes, that's no moon.
That's a great use of a Star Wars line if I ever heard one.
I know. It was so funny. It was like perfect. And we're watching it, and it's this orb, this glow of light way in the sky, and it has these spiral light clouds spiraling off of it. And it's moving ever so slowly, not like an airplane moves or like Starlink moves or any of that. It's moving differently and we're watching it move and then it fades, like the light just fades out. And then all of a sudden it comes back brighter than before and then it disappears. And it was the strangest thing. I took a picture of it. It looks so weird. People are torn on my personal social media pages what it is, but most people think it was a rocket that was launched last night. But the rocket was launched at 9 o'clock and I saw it just after 11 p.m.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's a long time between a rocket launching and me seeing it. That's like 2 hours. I just feel like shouldn't the rocket be not visible anymore or past me, right? Because
I
I
don't
live
know
in Virginia.
about that because I guess it was seen in several places around the country, from what I understand, including some places near me as well. I saw with other people's pictures, not just yours. And who's to say that you couldn't see a rocket much farther out or for a longer period of time if it's in some kind of, I don't know what this rocket supposedly was or where it was going, but was it in orbit or did you read more up on what it was doing or why it was launched? I
So
know it was called
James
the Vulcan rocket.
James told me that the rocket was putting something up there. It's called like
Okay.
satellite spoofing to disrupt GPS to mess up bad guys' GPSs if they're trying to target bomb places.
Weird. Okay.
So
Wouldn't that
I
mess
don't,
up everybody's GPS?
right, I don't really understand it.
That's classified. That's top secret information.
I mean, it could be classified. So going back to your question, I do not know exactly what the rocket was doing or if it was going into orbit or if it was just blasting off into space. But it seems weird to me that a rocket can be seen nearly at the same time, all the way from Virginia to Wisconsin into Canada. We got on Twitter, and within 10 minutes of us seeing it, people were posting in New York and Canada and Maine that they were seeing the same thing, which seems like the object has to be so far away that tons of people are seeing it, right? Like the moon, right? Like everyone sees the
Hmm.
moon. So I guess that could be it. But seeing a rocket so far away seems like it should not be that big that I mistake it for the moon.
You would
But
think.
so mixed results of what it is, but I still think that our UFO experience that we had when we were little is the best, most unexplainable
Yeah.
UFO. I mean, growing up in Utah, I feel like we're not seeing a UFO was not uncommon. So for me to see this last night, I was like, what in the world? But James, having never seen something he couldn't identify with, was just beside himself. He was like,
Hmm.
"What? He was like, I don't know what this is. My rational brain can't wrap my head around it." That's why we had to do a whole bunch of research so he could figure out
Did you
what it
tell
was.
him what people are saying, or are you just leaving him
Yeah.
guessing?
Well, and he kind of he partially figured it out too. Just have to put down your phone and look at them.
Yep.
That's my boo sister advice for
Put
today.
down your phone and engage with the world,
Yeah,
just
exactly.
kind of like Josh Gates said.
Right. To explore the world around you because there's plenty to look at, plenty to see.
And with that being said,
Anyway,
let's get into the meat of our haunted stories today.
yay! I'm so excited. It's a free choice day. So, Laura, you got to pick.
Do you remember me telling you last time? I gave you a teaser. I gave everyone a teaser of what I might do this week.
Is it a house masquerading as a castle?
Yes.
Great. I forgot what it
So,
was, though, what you said.
yeah, well, that's great because I'm going to tell it all to you today anyway.
Perfect.
So I teased this place during our last episode, which was about castles, saying how it's been called a castle, but I found that it wasn't really one by definition. But as soon as I read about this when I was researching last week, I knew I had to choose it for my next haunting. And that's because it is the castle featured in the original opening credits of the 1969 Scooby-Doo Where Are You cartoon.
Oh, that's perfect for you.
I know.
You
It's
love
okay.
Scooby-Doo.
So it's for everybody who's like trying to picture in their mind, okay, Scooby-Doo opening credits. It's this dark silhouetted castle where like these bats fly across the sky, if you remember that, and they're screeching while the music is playing.
I remember.
Okay, great. So you're right
Yeah,
there.
and we still have to try to convince Ainsley to go as a Scooby-Doo family for Halloween. So we
Right,
can
for
do that.
us more than her,
Yeah,
because we want to do
exactly.
it.
Exactly.
Scooby-Doo has always been my favorite cartoon personally. I've loved it since before I can remember and have watched pretty much every single iteration of it, including all the movies. And it's probably the reason why I love mysteries and the paranormal so much when you get down to it. Not to mention the idea of debunking things, because, like, let's face it, the Scooby Gang were the OG ghost hunters and debunkers, right?
Well, I hate to say that they were the OG because I always think of that as the original Ghost Hunters, but I think Scooby-Doo came before them, so you're probably right.
Yes, they did come before. 69 was before taps ever existed, I guarantee.
Okay, I'll
So,
believe you.
as soon as I found out that this place was the castle in the credits and featured also in the episode, What the Hex is Going On, I said to myself, Jinkies, that's got to be my next choice.
That's great.
So, the name of this place is SeaView Terrace, aka Carey Mansion, and it's in Newport, Rhode Island.
Ooh, we should go to it. Wouldn't that be cool to take a picture in front of the Scooby-Doo mansion?
Yes, but you don't even have to convince me. I would go anyway.
No, and then we could wear our Scooby-Doo Halloween costumes in front of it.
That would be great. I just want to do that now.
Like, who cares if we go for Halloween? We should just get our Scooby-Doo costumes so we can take a picture in front of it.
Okay, that's the plan.
Okay.
Seaview Terrace, aka Carey Mansion, was built by the whiskey tycoon Edson Bradley and his wife Julia. They originally lived in Washington, D.C., in a sprawling mansion on DuPont Circle, and that mansion was called by locals Aladdin's Palace for its stately grandeur.
Oh, wow. I've never heard of that. And that's my like hometown, huh?
Do you know DuPont Circle?
I do know it, but
Okay,
I don't know Aladdin's palace. That's unfamiliar to
that's
me.
because it was what remained there anyway, was eventually torn down and
Oh,
replaced.
okay.
But when it was there, Aladdin's palace had been bought by Mr. Bradley in 1907 for $166,000. And can you guess? Because we always play this game, what that was in around today's money?
166,000
Mm-hmm.
in what year?
1907,
1.6 million.
5.6 million.
Oh, dang it. I'm so off. Okay.
So
Gosh.
he made a bunch of stately additions to this mansion that existed before he was there. And by the time he was done, it took up over half a city block and had its own chapel, ballroom, theater, outdoor fountain, and a whole bunch of other amenities that you would think are not private house amenities.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Hence why it was called Aladdin's Palace, because the public eye, publicity. What am I going for here?
From the view of the papacy, it looks Aladdin.
from from poor people's eyes. No, we're not saying that. Okay. I'm just going to skip past that. In 1923, as a 50th wedding anniversary gift to his wife, Mr. Bradley decided to move his family out of the city to a beautiful seaside acreage in Newport, Rhode Island, But Mrs. Bradley, who believed it was bad luck to move into a new home, insisted that pieces of the architecture of Aladdin's palace be incorporated into their new residence,
It's
which
a
is
strange gift to
a
give your
house.
wife. Well, because I feel like if James made the decision to just buy a house and move our whole family out and was like, "Happy birthday," I'd be like mad I wasn't part of that decision-making process.
But if it's somewhere where you potentially visited together and you had said, "Oh, I love whatever it was, Virginia Beach," or "I love this place. It's so beautiful and magical, and look at those houses are amazing." Would you be mad at
Okay,
that point?
that'd probably be fine.
So, in this story, Mr. Bradley did just that for her, undertaking what is considered to be our entire country's largest scale home relocation in history, transporting entire rooms and various architectural details via railway and building them on top of an existing mansion in Newport. For
I'm
this,
confused how you would transport a room. I mean, that when people transport whole houses, I don't
mhm,
understand how that works either. But how do you just cut rooms out of a structure and put them on a train?
I am not an architect or a construction person. I have no idea, but I do know that in certain cases, the entire room wasn't taken and pieces were taken, like a wall or materials like siding or flooring or a banister or different things like that that could be taken apart into
Oh,
smaller
that's
pieces.
so strange. That's so weird. Like, I don't really want to move. I'm sad to move. I'm going to take all these pieces and rip my house apart to put it in my new house.
No, it wasn't that she was sad, it's that she believed it was bad luck to move into a new home.
Why?
It was just her belief. It was just like a superstition. She believed it would be bad luck to move into a new home. So she took part of her old home with them. She demanded that it come to the new home so that it wasn't a new home.
Okay, interesting.
So for this feat of moving this huge property, basically piece by piece, not all of it, but most of it, it boasts a place in Ripley's Believe It or Not history. And it also earned the President's Medal from the American League of Architects in 1928.
I'm glad it got its place in Ripley's Believe It or Not because it deserves it.
Like that's the height of any honor or award, is Ripley's
Yeah.
Believe It or Not.
Well, for weird stuff like that.
So the new and improved French revival style chateau came to be 40,000 square feet, including approximately 60 rooms and some of the same design elements of the previous home, such as a ballroom, a 150 seat chapel, and a 500 seat theater, as well as some additional features, such as an organ room for Mrs. Bradley, who loved to play, an art gallery, and what was called a whispering gallery, which was designed so that a person standing at one end could whisper and be heard by someone at the other.
That's so cool. Like you just have a random room in your castle where that's built strictly so you can whisper to each other in it.
Rooms like this were supposedly structured this way so that you could eavesdrop at parties, social gatherings.
Oh, like the United States Capitol is a whispering gallery.
Okay. So yeah, like that.
Yeah, that's really cool that you would choose to say, "Oh, and we should also have a whispering gallery in the castle." Oh, of course, a whispering gallery.
Who doesn't have that? That seems marvelous.
I also feel like every castle has to have a chapel. Like when you say chapel, it sounds weird for someone to have a chapel in their home, but if you
Hmm.
go back to England and Scotland and all those places, they all have chapels with them.
But to a certain point, you think, okay, you have a chapel for your own private needs. Why does it need to seat 150 people?
Maybe they have a really big family.
Or you just host so many social gatherings and you keep people there overnight because they're drinking or
Yeah.
something that you're
It's
like,
like
let's all
we're
go to church
going
on
right.
Sunday after we drink on
We're going to
Saturday.
have a party in the whispering chamber. Oh, but let's not forget about church the next morning. Oh,
Hmm.
right. We also need a chapel.
To pray for all of our sins after what we did the night before. All of these renovations and things that happened created this structure, and it was so big that it takes up 2 addresses and is the 5th largest Newport mansion. And it's important to note that the new portions of the home were also built out of limestone. What does that mean, class?
It means that it's easier to record history
Mm-hmm.
and movement naturally inside the limestone. It's a recording device.
So this whole project lasted 5 years and finished in 1928, bringing in parts not just from DC and their original mansion, but also from all over the world, each piece with its own storied past, from medieval wall fixtures to French chandeliers and wood-clad mezzanine. I'm going to tell you about a few of these historical pieces in more detail because I think it's possible for ghosts to attach to those items, including pieces of architecture, if it was meaningful to them, just like I was saying earlier in our intro. The first piece is a Venetian ceiling, which they installed near the grand staircase. It came from the home of a man named Stanford White. He was a millionaire architect who had been shot and killed by another millionaire, Harry Thaw,
Mm,
at Madison Square Garden. Incidentally, Madison Square Garden was also built by White, so that's kind of cool. But get this, Thaw killed him because he suspected White was having an affair with his wife, Evelyn Nesbit, who was a famous actress of the time period. The murder took place while a theater performance was going on, and Thaw walked straight up to White and shot him twice in his face and shoulder, and the people around thought it was part of the performance, so no one stepped in to help him. Just to
mm,
orient you back to this story, it's the Venetian ceiling that came from White's house.
mhm.
And I make that point and bring in that story because he was an architect and he was really proud of that ceiling and proud of his house. And it was kind of parted out to different things, including this house. So I think that his spirit could be attached to things like that. And there's the potential.
That makes sense.
Another piece is the stained glass in the chapel. It was originally from the Milan Cathedral in Italy and depicts the flagellation of Christ. It was created in 1545 and thus saw several centuries of history before being placed in this house. Other stained glass panels came from churches in Holland and Germany, and also their furnishings, many of which are still original, were curated by the Bradleys. They filled the house with all manner of antiques, from things like statues and paintings to Chinese porcelain, tapestries dating as far back as the 1400s, medieval Italian lanterns, Persian tiles, and an array of arms and armor throughout history.
Wow. The inside also looks like the Scooby-Doo mansion.
Yeah, a lot of it does. It
Right.
really does. You'll have to take a look at the pictures. A year after the mansion was completed in 1929, Julia Bradley actually passed away in the house and was laid to rest in the home's chapel.
Wow. Okay.
So maybe it was bad luck to move.
Right. That's
It's a
not
little
right.
odd. Immediately after that, reports started coming in that her ghost was seen playing the chapel's organ.
That's definitely Scooby-Doo-esque.
I'll get more to the hauntings later, but I just wanted to point that out that the hauntings didn't start like recently with all the paranormal, popularity going on, that the reports started way back then in like the 1920s.
That's cool.
In 1930, their daughter Julie took ownership with her husband Herbert Shipman, who was a chaplain. Only 2 months later, Herbert would also pass away.
What?
So that's a little weird as well.
Yeah, what's happening?
While she owned the home until 1941, neither her nor her father would live there. They actually moved to a different location in, I want to say, New York, and they only came there to visit during the summertime.
Maybe it's like a mold problem or something natural.
Maybe. During that time when she would still travel back to the home, Julie, the daughter, was known to throw lavish parties. At one such event, the home welcomed over 800 guests and raised money for the British war effort. 5 years later, in 1935, Mr. Bradley also passed away. That's her father. Though not in the home, many still believe his spirit might have returned to the home because he too loved it so much. The city took over SeaView Terrace during World War II after Julie failed to pay the taxes on the estate, and it was sold at auction for a measly $30,000.
What? How is that possible? Was it in so disrepair or something?
There's the potential that people couldn't pay. It wasn't really in disrepair at that time period.
That's like cheaper than the original Jasmine's Palace or whatever.
Aladdin's palace. Yes, it was. It was cheaper than that. During that time when the city took over, Newport was an important naval base, and so Seaview Terrace was used during that time as officer housing. Then, after the war in 1949, Seaview was again sold, but this time only for $8,000.
What?
I know.
I'm like upset by that. I think the spirits would also be really upset.
It's like we put so much money into this.
And
We
so
had
much
so much
love and
connection and
planning.
love. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay.
So when it was sold, it became a boys' school and then it became the Newport School for Girls. During that time, many girls were already reporting incidents of things such as smoke detectors going off for no reason, objects flying off desks, radios turning on and off, and more. Then between 1966 and 1971, it became famous for more than just Scooby-Doo. It was the face of the famous Collins or Collinwood Mansion in the hit paranormal soap opera called Dark Shadows, which was a show about vampires.
Okay. I never saw that one.
There's a reboot of that actually now that exists, and I haven't seen it myself, but I know that it does exist because I've heard of it.
Interesting. Okay.
And I put in a special note here that there were a couple other instances of it being used in pop culture just because they're interesting, but this is jumping ahead in time a little bit. In one instance, it was part of the setting of a 1975 adult film in the style of 50 Shades of Grey. And that's all I'll say about that one. And
Nice.
then later in 2017, it was used to film the sci fi dark romance The Discovery, which was ironically about a world in which the afterlife has been scientifically proven to exist.
Interesting.
So, jumping back to the history moments again, Martin Carey bought the house in 1974. Overwhelmed by the cost of the upkeep, though, he leased the main house to Salve Regina University. I hope I'm saying that right. For 35 years, SeaView Terrace was used as a dormitory, seeing hundreds, if not thousands, of people living within its walls. There are several legends that seem to have been curated during this time, perhaps just the result of overactive imaginations of college kids during late night scary stories. One was about a boy who had wandered down into the basement while at school and encountered something so terrifying he ran out of the mansion screaming and refused to return. Another was about the circle room on the third floor, which is part of the tower. It is said that one of the nuns who helped run the all-girls school committed suicide here by hanging herself, though there is no evidence to support this claim that nuns ever existed in the building. In another story, a married man named William was having an affair on the third floor in the tower in that similar circle room area, and William's wife Amber found them. In her despair, she proceeded to light the room on fire and hang herself, killing them all. Similarly, this story is not documented, but I thought I would throw that in there because these are some of the things that have gone around.
Yeah.
Reported paranormal phenomena that took place during this time when the university had ownership includes things such as TV channels changing on their own, showers turning on and off, and a deadbolt sliding into place, locking a door by itself.
That's a little creepy.
After the contract with the university was terminated, Martin Carey's daughter, whose name is Denise Betancourt, and her husband Chris moved in there in 2009 and immediately began experiencing their own paranormal activity. The most notable spirit said to haunt the premises is Mrs. Bradley herself. During life, she was passionate about playing her SD organ, which we mentioned, so much so that the home was built with an organ room to house her chosen instrument. Since her passing, many people have reported hearing her play late into the night, the sound echoing from the organ room and the ballroom next to it. However, no such sound should be able to exist as the organ itself was removed and the pipe wall covered years ago. The apparition of a woman said to be Mrs. Bradley has also been seen walking along the first floor and through the great hall or ballroom. But it is possible that not all of the spirits in the house have good intentions. One day, when alone in the mansion, the current owner, Chris, walked up to the second floor and started hearing what sounded like muffled voices that grew louder and louder. As he looked around, thinking someone had maybe broken in, he felt a light touch across his neck, like fingers stroking. Then, as he
Ooh.
spun to look, he felt more run across his upper back and the back of his head until, in his words, it felt as if he was being touched by 1,000 hands. He
Ew.
then, yeah, it's a little creepy. He then ran into the master bedroom and slammed the door behind him, staying inside until his wife came home.
That's the residual haunting of that adult video.
Oh my gosh. No, don't bring back up the adult video. There's nobody who died from that.
That's creepy though.
If you want my opinion of what I think it actually could be, is
Yeah.
just that spirits are supposed to have this spider web like feel to them
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
when you move through their space. And I think when a spider web kind of touches you, it does feel like a bunch of little touches. It doesn't
Oh
feel
gosh.
like one
Now
solid
I'm
thing.
getting all these shivers thinking about it.
Well, that's great. That's the whole point.
Ooh.
The ghost hunters were called in to investigate this in 2020, and actually, they did one prior investigation of the same place in 2010. But they were called in again to investigate in 2020 because the current owner, Denise, had found a five-pointed star burned into a floor in the organ room after a visit by a group of fans who were fans of the show Dark Shadows.
Oh no.
A man had come forward afterward to say that he was a warlock and he was the one responsible. And they believe the man and perhaps others in the group might have taken the fandom too far and tried to perform some kind of dark magic or seance there. She felt that the energy had ramped up and was concerned that something dark had been invited into the home.
Oh gosh.
Her experiences prior to the ghost hunters coming were a bit creepy. She was alone one night outside a doorway in the hallway on the third floor when a tingling sensation crawled up her arms and she had the sudden feeling that she wasn't alone. That's when she turned and saw a dark shadow figure rise up from the floor and dart around the corner and out of sight.
Oh gosh. You already know from last episode I don't like cornered spirits.
Spirits that poke their head around things. Yeah.
Yes.
Spirits, you can come and show yourself to me. Just don't look around the corner. That's
I mean,
uncalled
yes.
for.
I That's how I feel like don't peek around the corner. Like just come at me, bro. Show your full
What if they
face.
peeked around the corner and then they charged at you? That would make it better.
I mean, no, because the peeking started it.
So, for the Ghost Hunters team, activity started before they had even finished setting up their equipment. Sherry and Dave were following a set of footsteps, while Jason, at the same time, saw an unexplainable flashing light go across the whole entirety of the second floor stairway area through one of the cameras that they had set up. And as soon as they were about to begin investigating, another one of their stationary cameras in the organ room started moving on its own.
I don't feel like I've seen this episode.
I'm pretty sure you did. It's so for anybody who wants to watch it, I'll say right now before I talk about more, it's Ghost Nation when they're Ghost Nation season 2 episode 9.
Okay, I'm gonna go watch it.
Some other crazy things happened during the investigation, which they also invited kindred spirits, Adam and Amy, to help with. Altogether, they heard a bunch of other sounds, including banging, tapping, dragging noises, doors closing, and voices. They, in fact, kept getting super surprised because they would hear disembodied voices speaking full sentences, and it seemed to be leading them back and forth across like the entire building. They caught an eerie EVP in the basement when discussing the pentagram. They asked, "What's to say it didn't bring in something darker?" And a voice answered, "I do."
It's saying I can verify it didn't bring in something darker.
Right.
Yeah,
That's how they took it to mean too, as if somebody was protecting the property who said, "No, I didn't let in something darker. I'm the one who gets to say that."
right. I'm in charge. Yeah.
hmm So, after another whisper that they caught, there was a floating EMF spike that couldn't be tracked to anything and slowly dissipated in the air, which was cool because it was in real time, as if they had caught something manifesting that they had also heard. And then they investigated the servants' wing where Chris had been touched with all those hands. And
Mhm.
the same thing happened to Adam, where he felt
What?
something on his arm and he freaked out. And he had Amy come and he was like, "Do you see a spider web anywhere?" And they couldn't find anything.
Oh, yikes.
And
That's really
then
cool.
they played recorded organ music in the chapel and the red pod went off. And they even asked the spirit to make it go off again, and it did it on command. Then they played music and asked the spirit if it liked it, and it went off a third time on command.
Wow. I love when they get like the direct answer situation
Me
happening.
too.
That's like the coolest thing. If I was on an investigation and had direct answers like that using electromagnetic activity, I think it would be cooler, honestly, than anything else.
Yeah, because it feels like a full on, like real
Conversation.
time
Right.
conversation in that moment.
Right.
Denise also said that her recently passed father, Mr. Carey, loved the home so much that she believed he was still there with them, and she asked the ghost hunters to try to find any evidence confirming his presence. And at one point, when asking for him, a voice did come through, but they couldn't conclusively say it was him because it was just a voice and it didn't say, "Oh, I'm Martin." So while they found nothing confirming his spirit specifically, it's clear that the evidence that they did get points to the idea that the home itself is being tended to by spirits deeply connected to the property that have likely once called it home. And honestly, those are some of my favorite types of hauntings that we talk about.
Yeah.
So
I love
that
that.
is my investigation. And
I love
before
it.
I ask for your rating, because I don't think this one is particularly scary, but I'm more curious who you think, based on the evidence, could be haunting the property.
I honestly think the most likely is the woman. She had the most love of it. She put the most effort into it, picking the pieces, bringing her old house to it, and she died in it. I just think she might choose to stay.
I'd like to think that if she was around right after she passed away, and maybe Mr. Bradley came back to be with her and that they're together in the afterlife.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. Let's let's go with that. That
Okay.
would be great. I like that ending.
So she's playing music for him and he's keeping the house protected and secured.
I like it.
The end. So, Autumn, what is your boo skill rating for SeaView Terrace?
This is a hard one. I'm toggling between a 1 and a 2.
Okay, so give me your reasoning and maybe you'll pick one.
Okay. My reasoning is because I feel like this is a place I honestly would love to go. It sounds beautiful. It sounds haunting. Like the spirits inside seem relatively friendly and, if anything, like protective of the space. I think it holds a lot of history, and I love the history. So I think it's somewhere I would want to go and investigate. It, I think all the activity is really awesome. I think maybe that's why I would end up giving it a 2, not necessarily for its scare level, but for its thrill level. Like it
hmm
seems like activity just kind of happens and happens and happens. And as an investigator or a visitor, I think like you could have those jump scares, not because it's scary, but because you it's happening so much you might not be expecting to see or hear what you're experiencing. So I will give it a 2.
Okay. Well, I actually would also give it a 2 for slightly different reasons because I think that while the spirits seem to be good, it still doesn't take away the creepy factor of some of the experiences, like the hands and then
Something,
the
yeah.
shadow figure peeking around. Being alone in a place like that, I think would be really intimidating.
Great job. I loved it. It's a great story. It seems more like a story like I would choose to do
Well, I had to
because
come back after last week's because I had the 5. So I was like, oh, it's fine. I really like this place as a haunting with the history and it being Scooby-Doo's haunted house.
right.
So
Just tone it down a little.
yeah, I was just like,
Yeah.
why not? It's a fun one.
Yeah, I like it. It's cute. Okay, so those places, those haunted locations that you're like, this is gonna be an awesome location. And then you start researching it and diving into the hauntings, and you're like, no, this is not as good as I thought it was gonna be.
Maybe not as good isn't the right word, but like not as scary or not
Or
as
robust.
yeah, not as
Yeah,
robust information wise. Like there's very little history. Yeah,
yeah.
I've had that happen.
So this is not one of those places.
Oh, well, that's a
I
weird
was like,
intro.
I got into this location and it was more than I thought it was going to be. And also I've been excited to do this one for a while and I'm pretty excited. Okay, there you are, driving through the Nevada desert. Miles of nothing but sand, sagebrush, and the occasional tumbleweed that looks like it's lost its will to roll. When suddenly you see it, a massive road sign. It says, the Clown Motel.
Oh no.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right, folks. A motel full of clowns. It's like Stephen King and Motel 6 had a baby.
Yeah, that's not something we want to know about.
From the outside, it's pastel blue and white with hand painted clown faces plastered across the walls, grinning at you with that I know where you sleep energy. And just to make things extra unsettling, it's right next door to an old pioneer cemetery. 'Cause nothing says sweet dreams quite like cemeteries and smiling clown faces. You
That's
pop.
definitely true. Although cemeteries, I think, generally are not haunted, but
Right.
maybe.
I generally think so too, but this was an interesting case.
Okay, go for it.
You park, take a deep breath, and walk into the front office, where you are instantly greeted by hundreds of clown dolls, paintings, and figurines staring at you from every surface. There's even the life size clown in the corner who looks like he knows all your childhood fears. And the wall behind the counter is an explosion of bright colors and, well, your nightmares. Hundreds of people and guests have donated their own haunted and sometimes just creepy clown to this motel. The rooms inside the hotel, well, each one is clown themed, of course, because why not really commit? Some rooms have bright, cheerful circus vibes, while others look like they were decorated by Pennywise on a weekend bender. You might get a room with a giant clown mural, or the one where the pillows have little clown faces stitched into them, or the one with Chucky wallpaper waiting to murder you in your sleep, or the suite where the sheets are covered in feigned blood splatter. Come on down
What?
and pick your favorite.
Why? That just sounds gross, like disturbing.
I know, right? You should see the pictures of this.
No,
Yeah, I'm
no, I
gonna put them.
shouldn't.
Yeah, you're gonna see them. Okay, so a little history for you. Nestled in the dusty desert town of Tonopah, Nevada, the Clown Motel stands as one of the most bizarre roadside attractions in America. But it didn't start as a creepy horror spot. Far from it. The story begins in 1985 when siblings Leona and Leroy David opened the motel as a heartfelt tribute to their father, Clarence David. Clarence was a miner by trade, but more importantly, he was an avid collector of clown figurines.
Oh, I thought
Reported
you were gonna say he was a miner by day and a clown by night or something like that. I was like,
that would
what is
be even
happening?
better. He reportedly amassed over 150 pieces of clown decor in his lifetime. He is buried in the Tonopah Cemetery next to the Clown Motel. At
Mm.
the beginning, it was actually called the David Motel, and it looked fairly normal from the outside. Any kind of like 60s, 70s roadside motel that you would see. The motel was designed to showcase his unusual collection, turning every corner into a carnival of colorful clowns, cheerful and quirky, but not scary. The walls were adorned with paintings, shelves lined with dolls, and the lobby felt more like a whimsical museum than a place where you would fear while brushing your teeth. For years, the Clown Motel was exactly that, quirky roadside curiosity where families, road trippers, and collectors could stop, snap photos, and maybe share a laugh over the kitschy charm. The owners kept the vibe light and fun, and the motel's eerie reputation was more about the sheer number of clowns than its hauntings or its scariness. Then, in 1995, ownership changed hands to Bob Perschetti, who maintained the classic clown theme while expanding the collection to over 600 pieces. The motel remained a loving homage to clowns and a well known stop for travelers seeking something offbeat. Yet, through these years, whispers of ghost sightings and strange happenings began to circulate, especially thanks to the neighboring Pioneer Cemetery, which held the remains of hundreds of miners and settlers. Then came the big shift in 2019. The Mayer family bought the motel and decided to crank the weirdness way up. They
Because
embraced
it wasn't already.
the with 600 clowns. It was like friendly clowns, like we're a clown motel with
There is
600 clowns.
no such thing as a friendly clown.
These new owners, they embraced the motel's spooky potential and transformed it into a full-on horror destination. They rebranded it as the world famous Clown Motel and started creating themed rooms inspired by horror pop culture, like the infamous It Suite, where Pennywise's painted grin watches over your bed, or the Exorcist Room with its unsettling nod to demonic possession. Soon after, rooms dedicated to iconic horror movies like Friday the 13th and Halloween joined the lineup. The motel's clown collection exploded in size, now boasting thousands of pieces. It's over 2,000 at this point of creepy dolls, vintage circus memorabilia covering every inch of the lobby, rooms, hall, and hallways.
Listen, you can't
Listen,
see my face right now, but I'm telling you that I'm shaking my head and just like, why? Why, people?
I am going to send you a photo right now.
I don't know that
So,
that's
no,
necessary.
I'm going to do it. So, there you go. There's a taste of the Clown Museum. I'll send you one of the outside.
Okay, so you said, here's your taste of the clown museum, and I don't ever want to hear you put taste and clowns in the same sentence ever again. But also, as I'm looking at these pictures, I'm thinking this is where you go to be killed, to be murdered,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
not by clowns, just by like probably people. Maybe people dressed as clowns, but certainly guaranteed murder. Are you
Yeah.
squeaking in weird
Yeah.
clown
That was
voice?
my horror movie thing where it goes ee, 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 and the like
Oh,
knife
like a
coming down.
got you like a knife. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was your squeaking clown mobile, like tricycle that you were riding
No,
on.
that's more like ee, ee, ee. Okay.
Great. Good impression. Now that we got that covered, and now can you do one where you're squeaking your clown nose? We're leaving all of this in.
All right. I'm also going to give you a brief history of the Tonopah Cemetery. So it's kind of like a two for one because these two places are highly intertwined. So now you've decided to stay in this Clown Motel, which is
Mm,
already a bad idea. But now there's this cemetery next to it. We're driving to Nevada. It's like the middle of nowhere. We're getting tired. It's getting to be night. And a sign that's glowing with clowns is like, the Clown Motel, rooms vacant. And we're like, that looks like a great place to stay. And we pull over.
I wonder if there are families that have gone there with their kids thinking, oh, it's like Circus Circus. My kids will love this.
And then it's like freaky
Horror.
clowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blood splatters
Well,
and stuff.
okay, to be fair, there are some rooms that are just playful clowns. But then you park, and then there's this old cemetery right next door. And you
I would
continue
rather
thinking that this is a
sleep
good idea.
in the cemetery, and there are probably fewer bugs.
The Tonopah Cemetery opened in 1901, and it was already closed a decade later because it had run out of space for people. Over 300
What? It's the
people.
desert. How does it run
Yes,
out of space?
over 300 people ended up being buried in that cemetery. And they thought it would last decades and decades, but it only last 10 years. The graves in the cemetery read things like died eating library paste, stabbed by her husband with a miner's candle holder, forgotten by everyone but God. Like those are three different things I read.
Okay.
So they're very interesting. They're basically like, here's how this person died.
Are there any normal burials that aren't those things, or
I
is it
don't think
only
so
weird
because
things?
I'm going to tell you some weird things. Tonopah, some say it's cursed because there's a bunch of like bad things that wipe out a bunch of people. Some of the cemetery's residents were victims of the infamous 1905 Tonopah plague. It started with bad chest pains and a little bit of a cough, and only a few hours later, victims would pass away. When doctors performed autopsies, they found that victims' livers were completely black and as hard as stone. The official cause, they decided, was pneumonia from terrible sanitation in the town. Between January and April of 1905, 56 people died from it.
Say those dates again. How many months was it? Or years?
January, February, March, April. 4 months.
And how many people?
56.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're saying it was not contagious, it was just something they all had in common, like the sanitation.
I mean, it could have been contagious. It was called a plague. It was maybe both.
Hmm.
People could get it from other people or the sanitation. I don't know because I have never heard of a pneumonia that turns liver black either. That's just what they were determining it
And
was.
how big was the town at that time? Like, did 50 people, was that half of the people or?
Great question. It was 10,000. So it's pretty
So
big.
50 isn't that bad in 10,000.
Yeah. Others buried here died in the 1911 Belmont mine fire. One of the heroes that day was William F. Big Bill Murphy. Bill went down into the smoke-filled mine once to save his fellow miners, then went back down again, and when he heard more men were trapped, he went for a third trip. Sadly, during that last rescue attempt, he fell from the lift cage on the way back up. His final words were, "Well, boys, I've made 2 trips and I'm nearly all in, but I'll try again." His headstone in the Tonopah Cemetery reads, "Died while saving others."
That's sad.
There's
I mean,
also,
that was
yeah,
an amazing
exactly.
thing to be that selfless, to go in again and again, knowing how dangerous it was.
Right. And to be keep saying there's more and more people down there, I'm gonna keep trying. Yeah. There's also Sheriff Thomas Logan, who was shot while trying to save people in a local brothel. And then there's George Davis, who was shot in the back by his wife, but she only ended up serving 1 year due supposedly to the abuse that he inflicted on her. And finally, the delightfully scandalous Bina Veralt. She and her friend made a pact to become rich widows together They seduced men and collect clothes and jewelry worth today's equivalent of over $2.5 million. She ended up in Tonopah on the run from the law, and she eventually died of alcoholism. She too is
Um,
buried in the cemetery.
because I was gonna say that it's a great plan, but
Yeah,
it didn't turn out the best, I guess.
I couldn't find what her tombstone read, but I wonder if it would be something like she died after seducing men or something like that.
Accidentally seduced death.
Yeah. Room 108 is the motel's infamous It Suite, known for the trickster. It once belonged to a former front desk manager, an older man who one night went to bed feeling sick. As the hours passed, things got worse. Realizing he was in serious trouble, he picked up the motel phone to call for help. On his end, it rang and rang, and at the front desk, silence. He was connected, it was ringing, but no one could hear him. Desperate, he finally called an ambulance. He died, unfortunately, on the way to the hospital. Security footage reviewed later showed something chilling. The front desk phone never did ring, yet the line from his room was active the entire time.
Mm.
This room is still open to guests and now has a huge painting of Pennywise on the wall, which it did not before when he was there. People who've stayed there report waking to find their belongings rearranged, hear voices whispering in the dark, and a heavy, deliberate stomping of miners' boots pacing just outside the motel door. Visitors have also woken in the middle of the night to find a 7-foot tall clown standing at the foot of their bed, silent and
Okay.
unmoving until it fades away.
So, a couple things. First of all, you said this was before the room got a makeover that he died.
Yes.
And this was what year?
I don't have that.
Oh, okay. But like it's proven, like there's articles and things or a death certificate, like it's not just a tall tale
Yeah.
story. A couple other things from your the paranormal. You said miner's boots, and I'm thinking, do miner's boots sound different than normal boots or other shoes?
Maybe they
How
do.
do
I think they're
people
just
know that
big
they sound like
boots.
miner's shoes?
I mean, I think they're just assuming it's minor boots because of the mine that's there and because of the people that are buried in the graveyard. But it
Mm-hmm.
could just be big boots pacing.
Mm-hmm. Which
So,
would be a good name for the clown that appears. Big boots.
oh gosh, that's horrifying. Okay, so when I read the 7-foot tall ghost clown thing, I was first petrified because I think that's now my worst nightmare. If I woke up and saw a 7-foot clown at my bedside,
Mm-hmm.
I might die of a heart attack. I think that would be so scary. I think it could be though that like they're having like some kind of waking dream, right? They're in this clown motel
Right.
and
And you said
like
there's a mural on the wall. So my
yeah,
first
you
thought
stand
was,
up and you're
where's
like,
the
bye.
mural? Yeah. Like, and maybe you're looking at that before you go to bed. So it's in your mind. I mean, I've had that nightmare
I
already.
mean, I've had a ghost clown in my room and it's like not that bad.
No, it's
That's what I thought you
bad.
were gonna say.
Do you remember what the phenomena is called with the paranormal when you create a haunting with your intention?
I thought that was like what a poltergeist is.
No. Oh, egregore. That's the one I know. A type of haunting that develops that manifests through the intentions and beliefs of a group of people that are shared in the same space. So if you all repetitively go into a hotel room being afraid of clowns, thinking clowns are there, thinking ghosts are there, maybe you create this intention that builds in the space and produces enough energy to manifest as this thing that you all think is already there.
I think that's very possible. However, in my mind, that's still like a legitimate haunting because now you've created this thing that exists, which is just as scary, if not scarier, because you created it from the scared minds of all these other people. And it's not a person. Ugh, I don't know. It's freaky.
Yeah.
Room 111. So, a word of caution here to our listeners because this next little bit deals with disease and depression. And I just want to remind everyone that if you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide, there's always help. And please call or text the Crisis Lifeline at 988. So, room 111 is now the Exorcist Suite. It is the room where a patient on hospice decided to live out the rest of his life prior to it being the Exorcist Suite.
I was gonna say, I'm sorry, it's not a laughing matter, but my first thought was, why, in the name of all things, would you
Yeah, it was
decide?
just a regular clown room, which
Okay,
isn't
that
that
doesn't
much
make it
better.
much better. No.
Yeah. He didn't expect to live long, as hospice is usually very short term, and his disease, however, didn't take his life as quickly as he expected. So, this story says that the patient lived in room 111 long enough to start seeing apparitions, but he eventually grew really tired of his condition, which eventually beat him, and he took his own life in that room. Investigators have captured conversations with spirits talking over a spirit box in room 111, and other investigators have experienced raised EMF levels and also EVPs. Room 210. Years ago, an Arizona man pulled off the highway. His back pain was so bad he could barely drive another mile. He'd been living with back pain for years. Doctors couldn't help him, and he figured it was just his curse to bear. Until he spent the night in the Clown Motel in room 210. He woke up in the morning and the pain was completely gone. There's no treatments, no medical drugs, just one night surrounded by clown decor and maybe some generous ghosts or a really great bed. But he believed it was a gift from the spirits of the clown museum. Clown museum. He believed it was a gift from the spirits in the clown hotel. Maybe old miners, possibly, who knew the agony of bad backs better than anyone else. And whatever happened in that room worked so well that he didn't leave. He moved into room 210 permanently, living there for 6 years until he died of natural causes. Room
What's with people
214.
deciding to come and live here until
And
they
live?
die?
There are some people that like clowns, I think.
No, that can't be it.
No. Okay. Room 214 at the Clown Motel isn't just haunted, it's said to be possessive. Guests say the spirit here isn't dangerous, but it is territorial. Lights flicker for no reason, personal items disappear, only to turn up in strange places or never at all. The legend goes that back in the 70s, a man lived in this room for 3 years as well. Somewhere along the line, the spirit of 214 that was there when the man was living there decided that they were roommates. When the man eventually checked out, the ghost stayed behind, waiting for his friend to come back, but he never did. So the story is that the ghost now gets a little cranky when anyone else stays in the room.
Aw, he
Like
just wants a friend.
Chandler, if like Joey moved out and then like someone else moved in. Paranormal investigators love it in this room and say they get activity all night long in this space.
All night long, all night.
Oh, another musical number.
Nope.
Da-da. Okay. In addition to these haunted rooms, apparitions have been spotted drifting out of the cemetery nearby. People say they look like miners in old work clothes, sometimes something far stranger. Paranormal teams have captured EVPs whispering, "We mined and we died that day, 17 men." One spirit, who's a man, is seen wandering out of the cemetery quite frequently. He tends to vanish the moment anyone tries to approach him. There's also been a clown spotted leaving the graveyard holding balloons.
Oh no.
So I'm like, maybe it's a real clown like visiting the motel and then just wanders into the graveyard for a second and people get like freaked out.
I'm gonna propose something here, and I don't know the owners, and I'm not saying, that everybody's deceitful outright. But when it's somewhere more remote like this, and they're getting more money and attention because people are wanting the paranormal experiences and wanting to buy into that fear factor, I have a hard time believing that they don't do certain things to play into it to like amp it up. I mean, it would be a kind of advertising to have somebody dressed up as a clown with balloons
I
wandering
I
around the
think
area.
I mean, I'm not sure they do that. However, they do ghost tours at night on certain nights of the week, and they allow guests to rent EMF detectors to go in the cemetery and to have in their room at night. So they definitely play on this haunted aspect. Guests have heard knocks on their doors, voices in the darkness, and scratches on the walls when no one is there. Paranormal investigators have caught shadow figures standing outside of their room as well. There was one story I read in 2012. Jeff Martin, a local tour guide in Tonopah, experienced a disturbing stay at the Clown Motel. His dog was born deaf, and this dog suddenly woke up at 1:30 a.m. with his ears alert, but he's deaf, and went to the window and stared out into the cemetery with his paws on the windowsill and growled until the sun came up. Martin's two other dogs, who can hear, never got up and stayed sleeping.
Well, we've talked about before, we think dogs can sense things, and that's not always by actually hearing it or seeing it. So,
Maybe that one just has a sixth sense. One YouTuber, his channel is called Vegas Must Try, visits the motel. He does not believe in ghosts and is a skeptic. He says this throughout like his video series, but he says in a couple of his videos like this place is supposedly haunted. I don't really believe in ghosts. We'll see, blah blah blah. So this location he claims made him rethink his position on all of that.
hmm.
So I watched his video. It's pretty short. His videos, all of them basically document, where he is, what's happening, his room, the local food. So he's showing his room, he's showing where he eats that night for dinner. Near the end of the investigation, he says, "Oh, I'm going to take this ghost tour at this hotel." He takes it. He's like, "Oh, it's pretty like kitschy." And then he rents one of the EMF detectors and he goes into the cemetery. And as soon as he crosses the cemetery border, it starts going off like crazy, right? The cemetery is in the middle of nowhere. There's no
Mhm.
EMF, there's no wires, and it's just like going off. He walks a little bit, it calms down, but then it starts going off again, jumping way high. And he's like, "I don't think this is a very good idea. I'm starting to feel weird and get chills. I'm leaving." And so he starts walking out of the graveyard and the EMF detector dies completely. It's just done.
Hmm.
So the video technically ends. He's like brushing his teeth, getting ready for bed, and like that's where the video would end. But he does a follow up the next morning to document an experience he had in the middle of the night. And he says that around 3 or 4 a.m., he was sleeping without a shirt on, and he felt as if someone like flicked him really hard in the back with their fingernail, and he woke up so startled that he screamed and woke up his girlfriend. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, what's the matter?" Right? It wakes her up. And he says that he's never had an experience startle him so much.
Hmm.
And you can kind of tell he's like a little bit flustered, like telling the story. That was
I'm wondering how he knows 100% that it wasn't his girlfriend in her sleep moving and accidentally making contact.
I don't know, but he was pretty adamant that it was something surreal.
Say you go to that graveyard and you have that experience of your thing being set off and you're not used to using it because he borrowed it, which means this isn't something he normally does, right? He's not
Yeah.
tuned out from it. Like certain paranormal investigators would be like, "Oh, it's going off. That could be something natural, or it could be people actually trying to engage with me, spirits trying to engage." And then
Hmm.
asking questions and knowing how to direct it to find out if it's something more natural or paranormal. Did he do any of that or? Or was he really just getting spooked because it was going off in general?
Right. He's not a paranormal investigator. He was just listening to his instincts, like that he
Hmm.
was starting not to feel right being there.
So, and then
Anyway,
you go to bed with that
yeah,
mindset, then that can tone what you'd wake up to, even if it's not something truly paranormal. You know what I mean?
possibly. I see where you're coming from. Like it's at the front of your mind, and your mind does things weird at night. But I've woken up at night being certain that I was woken up by something, and I don't know what, but you just kind of know, like, oh, I didn't wake up naturally.
Even if they're being 100% honest to their experience, that doesn't mean that they couldn't have had a misconception of what it was.
Yeah, and that's possible.
It's
You
just
should
so hard
watch
to know when you're
you
not
should
there.
watch the video and see. Yeah. The Ghost Adventure crew investigated in 2015, which is especially fun to watch because the host, Zach Baggins, is terrified of clowns. So they get the usual stuff, EMF detectors, voice phenomenon, but the most unsettling moment comes in the lobby surrounded by all those hundreds of clown dolls. And the life-size doll in the corner appears to move its hand on its own. So Zach, in his typical fashion, freaks out. The clown's hands are like on its legs, and then the
Hmm.
clown's hand falls off of his leg, which to me could just be gravity, and the moment was captured on camera.
That
That's
would be admittedly very freaky to see in person, though, even if
right.
it
And you can
was
watch it in
just the
video.
right
Yeah.
moment.
Zach Baggins isn't my favorite because I think he freaks out a little over exaggerated, but it was fun to watch.
Sometimes you have to take those shows as what they are for pure entertainment, right? For pure
Right.
entertainment
That's
value.
what they are, pure entertainment. That's it, the infamous Clown Museum. You'll check in with a smile and maybe check out with a lifelong mistrust of balloon animals.
I thought you were going to say and check out with a lifelong friend. And I was like, oh, hell no.
Or that. So, what is your boo rating?
Well, this is hard for me because there's the boo scale rating we normally do, which is based on hauntings and the scariness of a haunting. And then there's clowns, which is
I
its own factor that has nothing to do with paranormal. I'm going to say that this one for me is a 3. I don't want to give it higher because I don't think I trust everything that's been said about it or the experiences that have been had 100%, like investigation wise, that you've presented. It's really hard to believe those when places like this feel more touristy. And I know that we've hit on that a little bit before, the idea of paranormal being more of a tourist attraction.
mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm more interested in engaging, or I'd be more interested in engaging had the hotel not been changed into the horror themed rooms and you
Mm-hmm.
could go and investigate that history
Mm-hmm.
because there could be some truth to all of that and the stories there and the people that could be haunting it that really truly have nothing to do with clowns.
Or it could be Clarence Davis, the original guy who it was built for, and all his personal most prized possession of clowns are there and now kind of in the background because it's not what it was supposed to be.
Right, which could make him more upset. So I don't know, I'm torn about it, but I still want to stick with the 3. Clowns, of course, are terrifying, but as a haunting, I wouldn't rate it as high.
I think I would still do it for just because I'm taking the hauntings at face value and not
Hmm.
reading too much into it. And if like all of the hauntings are accurate and some of the clowns do have spirits attached to them, I just think that's a little horrifying, right? Like maybe some of the clowns are vessels for spirits.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
true.
So there you have it. Two completely different locations for today.
I don't really like the idea that Scooby-Doo is paired with clowns.
Okay, but there is a clown Scooby-Doo episode.
I know we don't watch
So
that episode.
are you talking about you and your dog? You're like, we
Yes,
don't
we
watch
don't
that
watch it.
episode.
There are certain things you just don't need to see more than one time, and that's one of them. As a matter of fact, that clown in that episode is called Ghost Clown. in the Scooby-Doo
Really?
episode. Yeah, I just think that that's a funny, like ironic that we had those two things together.
That is interesting. That's pretty cool, though. So, our next episode is about cryptids, which will be interesting.
Great. I already have a couple ideas of what I might choose.
You do? I have no
Mhm.
ideas because there's too many.
Well, that's not no
So,
ideas. That's too
night.
many ideas. So sweet dreams, everybody, of
Yeah.
clowns and other things.
Sweet dreams. Don't wake up to a 7-foot clown. You're welcome.
As always, thanks for listening and happy
Happy
haunting.
haunting.